I would like to, I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then Commissioner Langston will say a prayer for us. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, we thank you for the day that you've given us, Lord. We pray that as we come together, Lord, and having one mind, Lord God, to do what's right for the city, that you will allow us to do that, Lord. I pray for everyone's protection, Lord, leading guides in the way that we should go. All these things we ask in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
I now call this meeting of the PSJ City Commission to order. We have our consent agendas. We have our regular meeting on 9/18, and we had a workshop meeting on 9/27. Anyone putting those minutes, give me a motion.
So move.
Got a motion from Commissioner Langston?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Lowry. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries 4-0. And by the way, we were working with a 4-member board tonight. Commissioner Brooke has took the time to go up to Tallahassee to sit in on the Water Management District public workshop they're having up there. So he will not be with us tonight. All right. Let's go to see the attorney. We have a legal service contract handout. Everybody has a copy?
Yes, Mayor, that's under your consent agenda.
That was part of the consent agenda?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, well, we good then. All right. Glad you told me that. All right, Mr. Attorney, what else you got for us?
Mr. Mayor, good evening. Board, good evening. There are a number of things I've been working on with Mr. Anderson. Some may come up later on in the agenda items, but nothing of particular note at this time to address the board with. I would note that we did have a golf cart meeting today. That's why I was not at the PSJRA meeting, the golf cart committee meeting, and I don't want to take away from Mr. Anderson, but I believe it went well. We've consolidated a lot of the information to one ordinance. I believe at this point I need to put together the legal language for an ordinance, heading the whereas clause, severability clauses, things like that. And I'm hopeful that on the next meeting, worst case, the first meeting in November, that we'll have something before this board to consider.
Any questions for our city attorney? Anyone? All right, thank you, sir. Jim, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, sir. The first item we have is a reference to the freshwater canal. We had a good meeting on Friday, Mayor. We met with Deseret. I believe we have a representative here tonight from them. We also had Commissioner Lowry. We had the city attorney was also there, and myself, along with Larry McClamma. Tonight we do have some information for you to bring back to you that came out of the meeting for consideration and discussion tonight under pages 7 and 8.
Guys, this revolves around our water ditch and the bulkhead there that we've talked about over several months. And this presents a resolution to fix this individual problem, but also could possibly allow Deseret some additional crossings at their expense, more north of our canal. But this definitely is going to fix this particular situation that we're having right there. They've met, and I see Calvin's here, they've met with the county, and the county's willing to pitch in and help some, and so are the Deseret and another one or two of the other timber companies that own land in that area. I think some of the main things we need to probably figure out is, in the board, in agreements with adding additional easements across our canal at no cost to us. Currently, there are numerous easements from what our previous attorney told us. I don't believe there might be maybe 2 or 3 more bridges up along our canal, but they are asking for additional easements, and I believe it'll be some way to clean this whole situation up. But our main goal and our main issue is that protecting our bulkhead, and this would put it'd have to go before DEP and the Water Management District, I imagine, more so DEP. But I think this will fix one of our main problems. Anybody got any other?
I'm all for whatever fix it.
I looked at the proposal, and I appreciate y'all meeting. The one thing that I noticed says that in this agreement that the city of Port St. Joe is to provide the engineering plans to install the culvert crossing. Is there a cost incurred in that? Do we have to pay for that? The engineering plans?
We definitely have to pay for engineering plans. We'd have to permit it. They have said they would be providing the pipe, concrete, and installation, and the county is going to help them with the field. I know it looks like, might be an issue that's really not ours, but then again, it is one of our issues. And we're going to have some skin in the game. But I want to fix this issue and try to resolve this thing. It's gone on too long. We've got people tearing down our gates out there and crossing that bulkhead, and I'm just super nervous that something inedible is going to happen out there.
Oh, I agree. I want to see it fixed too. I just don't want to see us, as the city of St. Joe, have to have a cost in fixing it. My recommendation is that, and correct me if I'm misspeaking, but the way I understand this going down was we had the trucks carrying the log across the bulkhead, and it became an issue or a concern that they could possibly cause damage. We asked the logging companies to regulate their own people. And after doing that, they tore our fences down, or at least one, and continued to drive on the bulkhead. So, in my mind, things kind of changed at that point in the game. What I would like to see is I'd like to see them fix it, and they can put it in bulkhead, or put a culvert in and get off the bulkhead. But while we're doing this, I would suggest that we also look at Fire Break 56, which comes out at the current bridge, and then that turns into Steeple Road, I believe, which really the log trucks and that little neighborhood road don't seem to go well together. So why don't we let them put in a culvert at their expense at Fire Break 58, come out by the fire tower at 71, they don't go through anyone's neighborhood at all, and close the access at Fire Break 56. If we're gonna tackle this issue, let's tackle it all at one time. And then when you go north of the Howard Creek Road, Doc Whitfield Road, there's several places there that they've actually asked for 7 new crossings. there's one already there existing. So we could work with them and accommodate them on some of those locations, as long as the city's not incurring a cost. I don't think it's fair for the logging companies to ask the city to pay for a fix of a problem they created. That's where I am at it.
I do know that there was a bridge there, and I'm assuming over time it deteriorated. But I'm for negotiating. I don't mind one bit.
Yeah, I mean,
If
I
we
just
can come to
think,
some reason.
yeah. Well, the other option is they have no easement. And when they don't have an easement, they're gonna have to figure out a way to take those trucks on the long route back to Doc Whitfield Road. And I understand that we don't want them on that side of the ditch either, because the truck could fall in the ditch or whatever. So I'm willing to work with them, but not at the expense of the city of St. Joe.
Jim, this compromise thing here we've got, was that everybody sitting down talking together and what was agreed on by everybody, or?
It was a discussion point at Friday's meeting, yes, sir.
Yeah, and it necessarily wasn't something that was agreed upon. It was a proposal that Deseret brought to us based on a discussion they had with the other timber company and the county as well.
We have a representative here from Deseret today. Would you come up, please?
Yes, sir.
State your name for us, please.
It's Calvin Winter, Land and Government Affairs
If
Manager
you
for
don't
Deseret.
mind, I think there's a sheet there for you to sign too.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And the first question I would ask is, why does Deseret feel like we have to have any kind of money involved as far as the city goes to fix a problem that's not actually ours? We're trying to save our water system. So I'd just like to hear from you why you think, the city needs to pay any money.
Yes, sir. And I guess, first off, I'd like to clarify a few things. Deseret and the other landowner are in a little bit different situations. Deseret's the successor by interest to the St. Joe Company. And we do currently have an easement along both sides of the freshwater canal. And so for us, I think part of the issue that's come up is whether or not there is an easement over the bulkhead. And that's been one of the issues that has arisen over the years. I haven't been here that long, so I don't know all the history. I've tried to get up to speed on as much of it as I can, and I understand that both the city and other parties involved have different perspectives on whether or not the logging companies are entitled to use the bulkhead. At the end of the day, we're concerned about the city's water supply just as much as the city is. We have employees that live in the city of Port St. Joe. By no means do we want to do anything that would impact the drinking water of the city. And so we want to come to an amicable solution here. And this is what we've tried to do. As far as your specific question, because we would be giving up something, we would ask the city of Port St. Joe to have a little bit of skin in the game on the one culvert crossing at Steeple Road. Now, again, we are asking for some additional crossings. Those would not be at the expense of the city. What we're asking for is the right to cross. And again, as we discussed the other day, we think that not only will having the right to cross in additional areas benefit us, but it will also benefit the city. We won't have log trucks traversing along the freshwater canal. They'll be able to get across it and go about their way and not be going next to it, which I think is a benefit to the city.
Jim, what would the cost be to the city on something like this?
I would have to get with Mr. Smallwood to get a proposal for it for the engineering cost.
In a ballpark?
I have no
What to say, Clay?
$2,500. I mean, I hadn't looked at it or anything.
2,500?
Yes, sir. I mean, I don't think it's a huge effort
To permit it too?
to permit the crossing. I don't think it's a huge effort.
What about design?
without looking at it, I'm guessing.
And from our perspective, we didn't see it as being something that would be terribly expensive. From our view, we hope it's, one large diameter pipe that we're able to fill. We get some concrete in there to make sure that we don't have stuff coming down into the erosion into the canal. But overall, we don't think it's going to be a huge effort. So from our perspective, we didn't view that as a significant outlay of city funds. But again, another way to share the cost. The county was willing to bring the fill dirt in for it. We're going to be splitting the cost of the actual installation with the other landowner, and we'll also work to prepare all the legal documents so that we can have a recorded instrument that will forever take care of the issue as to whether or not there's an easement or any right to cross the bulkhead. And that will solve that problem forever, which has been the biggest issue and most concerning, I think, for the city.
Well, on these other places, the 8 or the 7 new ones north of Dock Whitfield Road, are you going to be utilizing an engineer on each of those crossings as well?
I don't know. And also, to be clear, these are potential crossings. I'm not committing that we will build any or all of them. But it's just to have the flexibility over time, if operations require them, to be able to get across the canal in more locations.
What is the thinking behind the city being responsible for the engineering plans on the one crossing? But you're not sure if you, when then you're tasked with the responsibility of the other sites, you're not sure that you would use an engineer on those crossings?
I just have no idea. If we were required to for the permitting, which we may be, we would bear that cost. And I think in the proposal that is specified that if there was engineering and permitting costs, we would bear those. Now, again, whatever process the city goes through is likely similar to the process we would have to go through. For the record, I don't know of myself what exactly that process would be, and so I can't state today for you that yes, we're going to have to incur engineering costs or not.
What did you think of my idea of actually closing Fire Break 56 and working with you at Fire Break 58? That way you move the log trucks out of the neighborhood of White City. Because I know there's been discussion about that. And just to give you a little background, I worked in that area for about 30 years, 27 years. And I spent a lot of time in that area when it was state lands. And I was surprised to hear that the log trucks were actually driving on the bulkhead. Because in the years that I remember being in that area, there were no log trucks using that particular road. They didn't come out on Steeple Road. They used other areas. They came out behind the work camp onto Dock Whitfield Road and many other routes, but they didn't come down Steeple Road back years ago.
Years ago, I was not here, so I cannot speak from personal experience on that. But what I can say is our foresters have indicated that they have used that road. There was a pre-existing bridge there that has since been taken out. And part of that may also just be the nature of the timber industry, where in certain areas, trees take a long time to grow, and it may not have been utilized for some time. But I do know that the Steeple Road has been an issue with log trucks for some time, and that's one reason why we got Gulf County involved. As far as your idea, Commissioner, it is one that we seriously considered. And if it was just Deseret at issue, it may be the best solution. The issue here is, though, that we have another landowner, and it's difficult to satisfy them as well in this. And so where we came down to is being able to get them access to come up the road, and we would give them access in other places, but they need to continue to have the Steeple Road access. We're willing to, and part of this is going towards the county, we're willing to also, in a recorded instrument, state that we will not have log trucks go over Steeple Road. And so that's one of the issues that we're also trying to take care of all at once. But as far as not having the Steeple Road access, it's not something that we're able to work out with the other company to cut that access off.
So
just because of
your
their
company
access.
would not utilize it for log trucks?
Yes,
but
sir.
You're saying Wimico probably would?
They will not. Both my company and Wimico will agree not to use Steeple Road for log truck access.
You would just use it for other maintenance maintenance trucks and whatever.
Yeah, pickup trucks,
Yeah.
access for hunting clubs, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
and I'm all for more crossings, because I know the hunters that lease that property, especially the dog hunters, would love that idea. So I think it's a good idea, but I just don't want to pay for it.
Understood, and I don't think anybody really wants to pay for it. That's why we're trying to find something that minimizes the cost to most folks. I think that, well, I'm almost certain, especially with the off-the-cuff estimate on engineering, that my company and Wimico Timber will be bearing the most significant cost of having to purchase the pipe, pay for the installation, the concrete work and stuff like that. But again, it's all a matter of everybody coming together who has a dog in the fight here and trying to find a solution everybody can live with, because again, we're looking for the long term here. We don't want to come back next year and have another problem. We want to say, look, we looked at the problem, we fixed it, and we moved on, and we continue to be good neighbors to one another.
Well, I think at this point, for this board to make a decision on something like, we also need to know the cost to the city. So if Jim, you and Clay, y'all can get together and bring us back some kind of cost on the city's part that we can actually look at, and then I think we can make a better decision. I don't want to pay for it either, but if that's the only solution to getting this problem cleared up, then I'm willing to wiggle some. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think it's always good to go with your eyes wide open, understand what the cost will be, and you know, that's an important thing to understand. So I'm all for that, making sure that everybody is comfortable with that. And again, our assumption was that those costs would not be that expensive.
But
So-
it's not the only solution. I think we all have to agree, it's not the only solution.
Correct.
The other solution is your company and Wimico agree to pay whatever expense the city would have incurred. And I can't imagine that they would not be willing to do that, because they would lose far more than that in probably less than a month's time in the fuel that the logging trucks would have to.
True.
And trust me, I don't mind telling you for a second time, I was not happy when I found out that the trucks tore the gate down after being asked not to drive on the bulkhead. So that plays a factor in where I sit on this.
And I don't know who tore any gates down.
Right.
I'll be honest with you. If it was somebody who was working for us, rest assured, if we came to our attention, we would address the issue.
I
Because
believe that.
we believe in being a good neighbor. And I agree with you, you know, there are potentially other possible solutions. We've done our best to get with all the parties involved. Nobody wants to be the one having to take care of it. But the situation we find ourselves in, you know, if we all can take a little bit, I think that we can overall get the objectives, which are going to be much more valuable for everybody in the long run. So again, I mean, it may be the case, but I learned also a long time ago that sometimes it's worth putting forward a little bit to just fix the problem and you know, saying that we're all still good neighbors and happy with one another. So.
All right, we'll wait
Appreciate
on
it,
staff to bring us back some figures, so we'll see what we're talking about. Any other questions from anybody? Thank you, sir.
And we appreciate your time, and have appreciated working with your staff and with Commissioner Lowry. Thank you.
Appreciate you coming.
The next item we have is in reference to the high school state championship sign. Staff is still continuing to work on that. It's there for discussion points tonight if any other discussions we have.
Still trying to come up with design and all that?
Yes.
The next item we have is in reference to the workshop we had last Thursday. We did have a workshop in reference to the zoning request from the North Fort St. Joe PAC. Did speak with Mr. Rager after the meeting. The next step, Mayor, will be to send out a letter out to each one of the property owners, what he suggests, and then at that point asking them if they're in favor of rezoning their property on there. So he is working on that letter. I don't have it yet, but as soon as we get that, we'll get that out to the property owners and continue the process. Okay, we have two items on the new business that actually Commissioner Ashbrook wanted to bring for you tonight. The first being the RFQ for the Triumph Funds grant writer. He is requesting that we go out to bid for a grant writer for the trial.
I'm good with that.
I think we really need one. I think that it's important that we find somebody that's knowledgeable in this trial from grant writing, has some experience. I think that all the small amounts of money that's out there for us, the city could really use. So I'm definitely for that.
Yeah, we've talked about it, even before we were talking deeply into the trial fund, so, I'm for it.
Need a motion?
I'll make one, I'll make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Lowry,
A second.
second by Commissioner Langston. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0.
The next item Commissioner Ashbrook had on it tonight was the 7th Street and Highway 98 Bay property. This is the 15-foot property that the city did retain ownership of between the Blaylock and the Haddock property. What he was asking is that we would clear the property out for an access down to the bayfront. Is what he was asking. I think he'd actually spoke with John, I think he looked at the property. I believe what you're looking at is clear. Now, how many trees do we
Yes,
have?
we estimate 3 to 4 trees, old and pine trees, some small, some are larger. One in the rear being the biggest, 15 foot not being much, and to create that natural path down there, these would have to go, especially with construction to the left and parking lot to the right. So our estimate is, I would say 1,500, 1,800 to have someone such as Kim Hunter, take the trees down for us and grind the stumps so no one tripped as they went, to the bayfront. So that's also there for the board's consideration.
That was our plan from the get-go.
Yep, clean it up, make it nice, put some benches down there or something for people to sit on, something like that. So, need a motion?
So move.
Have a motion, Commissioner Langston, we have a second.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Lowry. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries 4-0.
We did have 2 items that were added onto the agenda. First one was the additional part-time code enforcement officer. Mayor Patterson wanted to talk to you tonight about it.
Yes, and during our budget discussions, we approved another part-time code enforcer. I feel like we don't have quite enough time out in the field, that I thought we need more time in the field, somebody out there. So that's why we put that in the budget, and I would like to see us go ahead and put an application what we got to do for a job. We're going to go ahead and get this guy hired as soon as possible. It's in the budget, the money to pay him's there. So I need a motion if you want to go ahead and hire somebody for part-time.
So moved.
Got a motion from Commissioner Hoffman, second Commissioner Langston. Wow. All right, any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries 4-0.
The last item I have, Mayor, is in reference to the fire department. Yesterday, we got in our ISO ratings for the fire department. With ISO ratings, you rate it from 1 to 10, 1 being the best, 10 being the worst. The city currently was a 6. We got our ratings in yesterday. They moved up a letter grade up to a 5. So kudos to the fire department. We got a better rating, which should help out hopefully with everybody's insurance around.
Fire
here.
insurance, yeah.
Yes, sir. So that was good news we got yesterday.
That's great.
That's all I had.
So,
Public Works?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I've got several items this evening. The first being Eventide Sewer. This is a project Mike LaCour has had interest in as it relates to the Cape. The interest level he's received would fund that project, much as we have in other projects on the Cape, for the installation thereof. So you have a quote, I think, in your packet for materials. And I guess we're asking the board this evening if you wish to proceed, with this particular sewer line, and we would just need your approval to move forward.
Michael, we have a position now, and we've got enough people signed on or ready to sign on where we'll make money on the deal, or cost
Absolutely.
effective?
We have 5 that will pay the impact fees of $2,800 to cover the cost of installation, and 1 customer that's ready to hook up immediately, and then the other 4 would be down the road before they would hook up.
So you recommend that the city move forward with
Yes.
this plan?
The cost of construction is covered, which is what we typically, when we have these items, we're bringing to the board, our costs are covered, by the customers.
But any subdivision out on the Cape that we can pay for that installation and get those lines in the ground is going to benefit us for any new homes that come along down the road, and it's where we need to be moving. That's where a lot of the growth is, out on the Cape, and so we'd like to continue that process throughout this fiscal year.
So moved.
Oh,
Staff
motion.
recommendation.
Commissioner Lowry, have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Langston. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you, Mayor. The second item I have involves Clifford Sims Park, more specifically, part of the concrete cap on the seawall that the city owns. Several weeks ago, Mr. Smallwood and I, looked at this. He actually reached out to Jason White Construction, and you have a quote in your packet that involves removing that existing cap, inspecting that area to see what has caused it to, the earth below it to basically leave, make those repairs if necessary, and re-pour the concrete. So I feel like the price is pretty decent. If Mr. Smallwood wants to speak on that, he's certainly welcome too. But this would be something I would assume we could pull from that park funds that we received from the fishing vessels.
All right. Have a motion. Go to Clifford Sims and fix, do those repairs. Got a motion from Commissioner Langston. Have a second. Second from Commissioner Hoffman. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moving on, I just want to request permission from the board to go out for an RFP on our yard debris removal. That would be the grinding of our yard debris. And just want to get permission to go out for bid on that and bring that back to the board for future discussion.
Just the grinding?
Or grinding or removal in general, as a whole. It's going to be bid two different ways. Yes, sir.
Removing it from,
Site.
The site.
Yes, sir.
okay, gotcha.
I don't see any problem. We don't have to vote on that, do we? Or do we?
Yeah, we'll go out for bid.
We don't gotta go for bids on it?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I'll make a motion.
Have a motion, Commissioner Lowry. Have a second? Second, Commissioner Langston. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. The last item I've got, Mr. Mayor, is Patton Park subdivision. The city split those lots up after the removal of the old hospital, and we knew that eventually we would have to look at utilities. We've installed a new water line around that as part of our Phase 2 water. What we don't have is sewer. Mr. Smallwood looked at this from his perspective, from a gravity standpoint, and also you have a cost estimate on a low pressure system as well. I think if that should be in the package.
That should be actually a handout Mr. Brandon put together today. Look in your manila folder, there should be a cost breakdown for the low pressure.
So what we're asking tonight is the board to give us the direction they want to see us to move forward in to make sure we can provide sewer to the 6 lots that the city sold. I know one is currently slated to begin construction soon on the front. So that would be the first the person we would have to take care of.
And this would be for all 6 lots?
That's for, well, it actually is 5.
Hook them all up?
I think because the front, didn't the guy in the front,
think he
he
bought
bought 2, correct? So it's technically 5 of the 6.
Okay.
One guy bought 2.
We don't have a choice, really, do we?
We have to provide them sewer.
Yeah.
It's a matter of what direction does the board want to go with.
What is your recommendation?
It's certainly less expensive to go low pressure. Sometimes it's not the most desirable, and I understand that, because it's relative to power. It's not gravity, which will work, under any given circumstance. So from a cost perspective, low pressure is, certainly a lot cheaper. So if I had to make a recommendation, that would be mine, just based on cost.
What about you, Clay? What do you weigh in on this as far as?
Well, since I don't write the checks, I don't have to look at it from a cost standpoint, but, gravity works, and people, most of the time, will want gravity if they get to choose between gravity and low pressure, just because they don't have that cost of power, that rent, that monthly maintenance cost, that kind of thing, but, I don't know, price on low pressure was, my guess is a pretty good difference in cost to, do gravity versus low pressure on that. So, low pressure certainly would work there. There's no doubt about it. Again, I would choose gravity if I could, but I don't have to look at the numbers.
Let's see how much, let's see the difference in the cost now. Gravity, electric.
Well, you actually should have that in your packet. You know, again, Clay did a rough cost estimate of gravity, which I believe was 27. Just for-
Mr. Dyson, looking at them, you're looking at a difference of approximately 27.5 on the low end is what the number came out to be for gravity. And for low pressure, you're looking at 16.7. That's if you provide the grinder pumps. Normally what we do is with the low pressure out in the field, most of the time the customer actually purchases the grinder pump, which is $2,550, is that what it is?
That's correct, plus tax. But this one customer has purchased and paid the impact fees for this development, and it was not, he did not pay for the grinder pump because most of the time in the city, we're looking at gravity situation.
Which is why as an option, I provided that in my cost estimate, of the grinder stations. So you have a 16.7 total for low pressure if you assume you give them the stations needed to operate that system, or 27.5 on the low end for gravity.
I think you kind of got three options. You could go with gravity, you could go with the low pressure system and provide a grinder pump to them, or you could say that we're going to provide low pressure system, but you're going to have to pay for a grinder.
Yeah, I like that last idea, but I feel bad for that one person that's already paid their fees, and now they'll have to come back and pay a $2,500 grinder pump.
What are all the houses around that area? Are they all on gravity? Yes, sir. I don't know. My thinking is that whole neighborhood is on gravity. Those lots are in a neighborhood that's on gravity. They bought them. If I would have bought one of those lots, I would have been thinking that that's what the city was going to provide me. And I don't know any of the people that own any of the lots. So
I don't either. Like,
I just-
we just need direction from the board on how you
Yeah.
want us to
And that's why
proceed.
we want y'all to see it, because it is different, because it is in the city. Most everybody is gravity, but it's expensive.
it just seems like we're kind of looking at, it's weird for me to say this because I'm usually the one trying to save a dollar. I just think out of fairness, we ought to really think about this.
What do we have in that? I'm not sure if it's in a particular fund or if it's where it's located, but that, where we sold those lots.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely cleared a profit on that, on the sale of those lots. We didn't escrow those dollars, they just went into our general operating fund. But certainly we have money for sewer capital projects in our budget that aren't specifically categorized for this project.
Did we profit enough off the sale of the lots to pay for the gravity?
Yes, sir. I think it was $175K.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would just be,
It was $171,000 in profit off of that hospital site.
I would support the idea of spending the money from, I know it's not from that account, taking some of that profit that we made from the people purchasing the lots and giving them the best sewer system to match the existing sewer system that all the other houses in that community have.
What's that cost again, Jim?
On the low end estimate, we have about 27.5.
Yeah, we won't know a true cost
Yeah.
until Clay performs the engineering and gives me a little better detail to send that off to make
Sure.
sure. So if we just have a direction now, we can come back
Yes,
with a cost.
exactly. We were just trying to get a feel for what y'all feel with it.
I support that, and because they're still gonna have to pay an impact fee.
Yes, sir.
As well, so.
That's the way we'll
Yeah,
do it.
I'm fine.
Okay. We'll get the numbers worked out, we'll bring it back to you with some concrete numbers.
all I had, Mr. Mayor.
That's it. All right. Surface water. Larry?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, on page 15 of your agenda, we have the cost for the SCADA control system upgrade. This is a budgeted item. You can see a cost for the materials as well as the labor. The parts for this we'll need to probably sole source. You do have an explanation on your handout you were given of this. I guess we just need your permission to purchase it.
And this is a budgeted item, right?
Yes, sir, correct.
Jim, you got anything on this?
I would reiterate that we were given an email that said this would be a sole source. That's one question we had on there. Is there going to be other vendors, other providers that we make to get a better price on there? So without replacing the computer equipment that we have in there, we were told that we would, so staff recommendation. That is the brain of the water plant.
So move staff recommendation on the purchase.
We got a motion on the floor from Commissioner Lowry. Have a second? Second from Commissioner Hoffman. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries 4-0.
Okay, thanks, sir. That's all I have.
Well, you got any questions for Larry from anybody?
Good.
Well, let's go to the wastewater plant.
Quick update. We've been pushing the pond down. We've got 1.9 inches of freeboard, which is, we're in the, not the completely comfortable zone, but we're in the zone where we're not panicking anymore as far as the level of pond. We're working longer shifts, and we will do that for probably several weeks until we get down to a comfort level where we can pull guys back into normal shifts. Everything's working like as it should. So that part's doing well. We've got some algae on the pond, and we've seen it for years. It's not as bad as it has been before the sun disruptors. There's no mats, that kind of stuff. It's actually pretty healthy right now, the pond is. So then, let's see, we started, Wise Electric came out this week, start their process as far as repowering the plant. It's one of the bids, they won the bid a month or so ago, and so they're out starting, so they'll be digging and work on the repower. And that's kind of what we got going on out there.
Any questions? Anybody? Good. Thanks, sir. Finance Director.
Yes, the city's FERDAP committee met last Wednesday. We have a FERDAP grant cycle that's open now and closes on October 15th. So we need to make a decision about, we have the opportunity to request 2 grants in this cycle for FERDAP. Last year, the state funded $2 million in FERDAP grants, and they were all $50,000 small projects. Last year, the city submitted 2 grants, one for the Stackhouse playground improvements, and one for 10th Street ballpark improvements. Neither of those grants scored enough, so we did not receive those grants last cycle. But it's time to resubmit in the board. The committee went through and discussed all the parks and the needs. And I think certainly the Stackhouse and the 10th Street parks were high. The other big discussion item was pickleball courts and splash pad was a big discussion on the FERDAP committee. But ultimately, the committee would like to recommend to the board to resubmit those 2 grants, one for the Stackhouse, for the playground, and for improvements to the basketball court. And that's a $50,000 grant. And in looking at the plans for the 10th Street complex, both of those elements would be impacted by the redevelopment of 10th Street. The basketball court and the playground would have to be moved for that development anyway. And that playground is quite old. So that was one recommendation that the committee made for a $50,000 grant for the Stack House for playground and basketball court improvements. And the other grant was another $50,000 grant for improvements to ballpark and parking at 10th Street. So that was the recommendation that came out of the FERDAP committee for this FERDAP grant cycle.
Okay. Appreciate the work.
So do we need a motion on that to move
Yes,
forward
sir,
with
that'll be
those
good.
two?
To submit an application for those 2 grants during the cycle.
Need a motion?
I'll make a
For that
motion to accept the committee's recommendation.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Lowry. Have a second.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Langston. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries 4-0. All right. Clay?
The county did receive word from DOT that they're going to fund the extra money needed for releasing drive sidewalk. So the county opened up their CEI qualification packages last week. So they're in the process of awarding the inspection part of it, and then that project will be kicked off. So 60 days, I would imagine you can see somebody out there. But if there's something changes on that, I'll let you know. But it's moving forward. All the approvals, I think, are in place at this point. It's just a matter of paperwork.
Think we get it this year?
I think so. I think pretty good.
All right.
Nothing tonight on the trail lighting. We're still waiting on prices from Duke Energy. I mentioned that to you last time. I told you we're waiting on some prices from them. We think we'll have those tomorrow, so maybe in a couple of weeks I'll give you some. I'll be able to plug in the unknown numbers on that, and so y'all can decide on where to add some trail lights. Road paving, you have that in your packet. Some of the estimated costs for some of the projects y'all put out there. Ideally, we could get some direction from you tonight on how you want to spend that $97,000. Basically, 8th Street has already been approved. It's already in your budget to do. Contractor's ready to start on that, but they'd also like to kind of know what the other projects are so they can come in and knock them all out and close it out.
I'm definitely trying to fix that First and Reed intersection. It's a $5,662 estimate. Y'all be fine with that. I know we all notice it when we go through there.
Yeah.
How much was 8th Street, Clay?
8th was right at 200. I think 204, 208, something like that. But that's already. It's already.
Oh, it's already done.
Yeah, it's approved.
Okay.
It's already. Yeah, the 97
Yeah, that was
is
included. Okay.
on top of that. So,
Trying to figure that out.
yeah.
If you took Williams out of there, is there still, I'm not really calculating on it, but have you looked at taking Williams out where that would leave the rest of the roads on
If you took Williams out, that'd be about.
You probably got to take Williams and one of the other $16,000 to $18,000, I think, to get you pretty close to 97.
That's what I was guessing.
Guardrails that long and
Yeah, that's past the church, Long Avenue Church on 18th and 19th. You got some guardrail there that is not up to any standard. So we put that in there as an option.
that might be ideal as well, since we're eventually gonna repave, put in new infrastructure all in that area. So I'd recommend keeping that on. Puts us out about 21.
But you definitely just took Williams off the list. Is that what? you'd be past 97.
Well,
It's 84.
and if somebody wants, if we want to add Williams, we could kick in a little extra cash. Or we can replace those guardrails whenever we do the Long Avenue project.
Commission, you're about 106K if you take out the guardrails and the Williams Avenue. So you're close.
About the Maddox House parking. Is it needed real bad right now?
I mean, it's gravel.
It's a gravel lot, I think,
The TDC parking lots.
yeah, I think a couple of times, I don't know how many, but Public Works has been down there to fix it a little bit. but-
It's nothing that is pressing.
Is the board leaning toward Williams?
I know it was brought up at one point saying that there was some support to doing Williams.
Yeah, I hate to take Williams out myself. If you leave it in and you do the First Street,
That first intersection real bad, those are.
Yeah.
Williams need work. Apollo, I want that to stay on.
but we only got 97, 307, right?
Yes, sir.
If you want Apollo to stay on and fix Reed and First Street, that puts us at about 52,000.
Can't do Apollo and do Williams.
Right.
Can't do them both unless we kick in some money.
You have to have an answer to this tonight.
They need one pretty quick, don't you?
We need to give them some direction.
Yeah.
They're trying to get everything finished by the end of the
Yeah, we
calendar
probably
year.
should have already had this tackled. I apologize for not
Yeah.
looking at it closer.
That's all right. Y'all make the decisions. We can wait 2 weeks if you need to wait 2 weeks.
Well, we can make a decision tonight, I think. Might be 9:30, we'll make it. The easiest way to do it, though, instead of adding up the little number, is you gotta tackle the big numbers. So you gotta decide, do you want Apollo, or do you want Williams? Or do you want Apollo with several of the other smaller projects? You still gotta get out of Williams. So if it's the board's wishes to do Williams Avenue, you start with the 85,000 and you work up. It don't take long to get to 97. So it really comes down to Williams Avenue.
If you do
About
Williams,
one over.
yeah, if you do Williams and then you do the Reed, the small Reed project, you're at 91,000.
Right.
And then
That's a,
Eric, would you support Williams over Apollo? That's really a question that's got to be answered, I think. Because you can't do both.
How bad's Apollo? Maybe we can do part of it. Do we have to do all the Williams? Could we do part of it?
let's just go ahead and, Williams really needs, let's go with Williams.
Williams will start at First Street and all the way over to 71, all the way down.
That's what that represents, yes, for the 84,600.
I can live with that if you can.
and then do the First and Reed.
And then that's gonna leave us how much short?
That'll take you to $90,262.
may want to give yourself a little bit of flex, but if you're right around town, there's probably some patches. John probably can find a couple of spots. He probably could use some patches, or y'all probably see some, if you want to give yourself a little bit of flex.
That's fine.
I'm fine with me if somebody wants to make a motion for that.
Well, what I would like to see, is, instead of patching, like for the chief to go out and look at Apollo, because they're coming out of those apartments, flying, and see if we can put some speed bump down. Could we use some of the money for that?
Yeah, you could.
Could we use something for that?
On Apollo?
Yeah, that's,
If
road
we're
bond.
not gonna, look into, paving, I would like to see some, speed bump to slow that speeding down on the road. I would, chief, you mind, going to see what we can do about it?
No, sir.
I'm fine with everything else.
So we say Williams and First Street and fix those areas. All right, we need a motion.
So you mentioned a couple meetings ago, there could be some savings on 8th Street, correct? Potentially?
There may be, I mean, 8th Street, $200,000 project, we're not gonna hit that number exactly, it's gonna be plus or minus, so it's possible there can be some savings on that that will allow you to come back and, catch one of these other ones or two of these other ones, but until they kind of start that, we don't, I don't wanna promise you something.
What's the plan on 8th Street?
It's gonna get all tore out from Marvin down to, the ditch, tear it all out.
Are they, they're gonna demuck that?
We're gonna cut out the top, varies 4 to 6 feet, and we'll put down a geogrid fabric. It's the same fix we did on 16th Street about 10 years ago. That's held up really well, so it should fix it. It should fix it.
I want to make sure we get that right. So that's a chunk of money for that small of a stretch.
It is.
But I know it's
That's
an
why it is,
expensive
because
fix.
it's not a resurface, it's a tear
Yeah.
out and starter. So that road will actually be closed, between those 2 points for a month.
And I know the county said they'd help out too where they could. So, if need be.
All right, do we need a motion on what we say we want to do?
Yes, sir.
So do you, Brian?
So move.
All right, we got a motion from Commissioner Langston. Second?
Second.
From Commissioner Hall. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries forward.
I'll work with them, get some dates for 8th and these others, and get that to the staff and get that distributed to you. That was all I had tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Any other questions for Clay tonight? All right,
Thanks a lot,
thank you,
Clay.
sir.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate your work. Code enforcement, everybody has a paper to look at, and of course, we made a step tonight to go ahead and hire other part-time code enforcers. So, some of these things may be going up and increasing, and get out there and find some more things, so. Everybody check that out and look it over. I'm sure y'all's getting Rich's weekly reports. All right, police department.
Thank you, Mayor. On tonight's agenda, there was a request at the last meeting to look at putting a stop sign at 13th and Marvin. Since the last meeting, last 2 weeks, several of our officers have run stationary radar there. Just based on what they're seeing, I would not make a recommendation to put a stop sign there. It may be because the officers are sitting there, but I think 27 miles an hour is the most they've recorded at this point. That road's in bad shape. I don't know how people really can drive much faster than that down that street. But based on what we're seeing and there being no crash data, I would not support putting a stop sign there. I would encourage you guys to let us continue to monitor it. And if that changes or we develop the data that would recommend a stop sign, then I'll bring it back to you. I'd also like to say that in the past, the process for having a sign put up is somebody needs to submit something probably in writing to either Jim, me, or John. They can do it by email. John and I will look at it, and if it it's something we think we want to put in place, we can bring it to you guys, or if you want to trust John and I to make the decision, we can do that too.
But you will continue to monitor that spot from time to
Yes,
time to
sir.
see what's going on.
Absolutely.
Well, I think the chief brings out a very good point. The last thing that we need in the city of Port St. Joe, or one of the last things, is commissioners deciding individually where to be putting up the stop signs, because we all have different jobs, but we're not experts on traffic control. So I know we all get calls and we all are asked to look at, a stop sign or a speed bump. I've been asked about speed bump. But I'm not that person, I don't have the knowledge and the background to know about that. So we need to support the people that are in that decision-making process, and it usually would start with the chief and his department, and support them in allowing them to do the research and then the recommendation. And we may not always agree with your findings, but I think it should weigh heavy on the decision process. So I appreciate what you've done.
Yes, sir.
I just don't want you to be in that bad spot, because I can see where it could be problematic if I'm telling you where to put a stop sign on.
All right, any other questions for the chief?
That's all I have.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ms. Charlotte?
Just wanted to update you, Ghost on the Coast. Some of the officers in Chief's Department went around door to door, taking in the letter about Ghost on the Coast, Christmas on the Coast, as well as posting our posters announcing Ghost on the Coast. We've had people call wanting to know where they can set up with candy. So apparently it's going well in the community. That's where we are on that.
Mr.
So,
Mayor, that's it?
yes, sir.
All right. Before we go to the citizens, of course, I want to remind everyone, we have a 3-minute rule. You can get an additional 3 minutes if a commissioner makes a motion and gets a second, or if someone in the audience wants to give someone their 3 minutes, that will be allowed too. So now, anyone citizen want to be heard? Come on up.
Amy Rogers, resident of North Port St. Joe, homeowner and taxpayer and citizen. I want to just following up on some time back, we had requested the Peters Park baseball field to get some repairs done on it. Mr. Kennedy have gone by and Commissioner Ashbrook, and we showed them where the fences all need to be replaced. And also on the tennis court, that fence needs to be fixed because it's rusted out and it's split. And they were going to be looking for some grants at that time. The response was looking for some grants. And I was thinking, I didn't hear Peters Park included in the grants of the funds that you're applying for. Could we include Peters Park and get some of those repairs done? Because we don't want anybody to get hurt and fall on the fence or playing tennis courts to get the lights repaired, just a repair. But they were supposed to be looking for it and probably just forgotten about it as we, plan for the grants. But we discussed it in the past.
Yeah, those elements were discussed in the FERDAP committee, and certainly we agree those improvements need to be made. And in next year's cycle, we can certainly revisit that issue.
Good. And the other item is that we want to request, as a citizen and residents of North Port St. Joe, request that for the Florida Department Community Redevelopment Agency from the state, they have to finally approve the CRA. One of their representatives come down and host a workshop so we could get questions answered that none of us is not capable of answering. These are the experts that's handled CRAs from Florida, and they will come down anytime. They have came down before when we expanded the current CRA to include all the North Port St. Joe. So that's what I would like, and several other members that I discussed this with, they're concerned, a lot of questions is unanswered. So if the city would, at one of their workshops, or call for a workshop, and ask for a representative of the Florida Department of Community Redevelopment Agency to come down and host a workshop, and the questions that we need to be answered, commercial, individuals that have property and residential. They got it all, and they know it all, Mr. Expert. So this, can we get looked in the future while
Yes,
we're
ma'am.
doing this zoning to request a representative to come down? And
Probably
this is their job.
relay that to Bill.
Yeah, Bill Kennedy, we'll talk to him about that.
Because Ms. Carol Westmoreland, she came down in the past and did our workshop.
Right, okay.
That's all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else from the public? Come on up.
I'm talking Tom does, call please. I need all the business I can get today. One for the record.
Thank you.
Robert Branch, 1016 Marvin Avenue, representing 10th Street Ballpark. Since we, the residents, have been informed of this proposed ballpark complex expansion, we have been stating our concerns and issues. None of the city commissioners or county commissioners have listened to or shown any concern or future concerns of the residents of Marvin and Woodward Avenue due to your plans, support, and funding for the 10th Street Ball Complex expansion. We have stressed to you the importance of not piping and covering the proposed minimum of 600 foot of the stormwater canal. That's a minimum. It seems like y'all won't try to pipe it all the way to 16th Street. Minimum 600 foot. You all aware this is wetlands. See the attached picture on the back. There's a minimum of 12 foot of pure muck throughout this floodplain wetlands. Piping and covering of this stormwater canal, along with covering up so much more area, will create more water pushed up in our yards and under our homes throughout Marvin and Woodward Avenue. We are still very concerned of the settling of our homes due to the location and the conditions that's there. The lights, the noise, the congestion, and the devaluation of our homes would be devastating to our neighborhood. We have asked to be on the so-called forum committee to have a voice, but have always been denied. The city voted 4-1 to have 2 residents added on July 17th of this year. We will hold all city and county commissioners accountable to the ballpark complex. Now, as I said, we have wanted to be a voice, but this so-called committee, we have always been denied. I got a couple of these on the hand, y'all may approach the bench. Y'all can share one. Don't have 3 of them. Here's one for the record. Page 2, I got a thing highlighted here. After a very lengthy discussion, a motion was made by Commissioner Hoffman, seconded by Commissioner Ashbrook, to table resolution 201807. Motion carried 4-1, but Mayor Patterson voted no. Y'all remember that, right? Y'all, we tabled it, gonna talk about it in 2 weeks. Next paragraph, Commissioner Hoffman asked the 2 residents from the Marvin and Woodward Avenue areas, one for the baseball program, one softball, be added to the committee. The request will be made to the committee. Y'all remember that, right? July 17th.
Motion to extend time.
Actually, Eric,
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion. We have a second.
I give him my time.
Okay.
Actually, Eric, Commissioner Langer, you were the only one, actually baseball representative on the committee then, right? You were appointed because Mr. Bozette, he got off and you took his place. You were supposed to go to Commissioner Quinn and get two of us added. Did you ever talk to him about that?
No, I don't remember telling you
That was what was said. It's me. It's on video.
It's on page.
You were the baseball representative. You were the city rep to talk to him. You took Mr. Bazette's place. I called you 3 days later. You remember the conversation? I called you actually on the
I remember
20th.
you hanging up in my ear.
Sir?
I remember you hanging up in my ear.
Okay, you do remember. No, you said you were busy. You had to check your schedule. That's what you actually said. And you said you had people over, so you hung up.
No, you hung up in my ear.
Okay, I don't have time. I don't have 3 minutes. I'm not saying for argument. I know what was said. Okay, did you ever talk to Mr. Quinn about getting on the committee? Did you ever talk to Mr. Quinn? That was the agreement here when y'all voted 4-1. Did you ever talk to Commissioner Quinn?
I didn't tell you I was gonna talk to Mr. Quinn.
That's what y'all voted on. Y'all voted 4-1 to put two of us ready. I actually called you the same day, Mr. Hoffman. I was on my way to Chip and you was on your way to Dothan. And that was the conversation.
I talked to Commissioner Quinn about it.
What did he say?
I told him what the city had voted on and briefed him on what we wanted to see about adding additional people on there. And the conversation with Commissioner Quinn was they would make a decision as their committee, the larger committee, but he was actually at that point in time thinking that the best thing might be to dissolve that committee and then the city look at starting a whole new committee. And then the time frame from that meeting where we voted on that until the next time we were to meet.
2 weeks later.
Yeah, 2 weeks later, within that 2 weeks, that wasn't even an option at that time.
Well, that's why I'm speaking now, because y'all have denied us residents from the get-go to be on this committee. We keep hearing that the public had that input, but we are the public. We're the public. The public had that input. If we had, I wouldn't be here now. That was your responsibility, Commissioner Langston. And actually, Mayor Patterson, at that next meeting 2 weeks at the same time, you the one told me the committee had been dissolved. Who told you that?
I never told anybody committee.
Yeah, you told me just what he said 2 weeks later, it's been dissolved. So both of y'all, your story's not right.
I don't have a story.
You told me on the 7th that this committee had been dissolved.
I don't think I told you that.
It's on video. It's on video. It's not on video. It's on video. I looked at it. I looked at it 10 times. So y'all story's not right.
I'm not even on the committee.
Well, see, okay, let's go back to this 10th Street Park, what I said last time. Mayor Patterson has not received a response to his inquiry as to whether there can be 2 representatives. They're telling y'all what to do. They're telling you what to do, you what to do, and you what to do. Y'all ain't voting us.
I wasn't never going to ask them because I voted no. So that was my answer right there that night, that I wasn't.
Y'all voted 4-1 to have, y'all voted 4-1 for the record
Yes,
to
sir.
have us 2 on the committee, and y'all failed to do that. And that's my question. So you didn't talk to Commissioner Quinn, neither one of y'all. On to you, Mr. Hoffman.
The vote actually was not to place 2 people. It was to ask Commissioner Quinn, the chairman of that
And you
committee.
did say you asked.
Yes, yeah.
And they said they'd done away with the committee.
They said that they were looking at doing away. They had not done away with, because they hadn't met at that time. So he was saying when
Well,
his committee.
the funny thing about it is there hadn't been any more committees since. So that's all I got for that. Y'all need to do what you tell people.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am, come on up.
Christy McElroy, Woodward Avenue, 1311. I'm going to kind of follow this line because we had a lot of discussion at the last meeting. There were a total of 8 committee meetings. What I saw, according to the minutes that I will be putting in the record, for the first meeting, you had 9 county people and 3 city people. For the second meeting, you had 9 county people and 4 city people. For the third meeting, you had 12 county people and 5 city people. For the fourth meeting, 13 county people, 5 city people. For the fifth meeting, 8 county, 2 city. For the sixth meeting, you had 9 county, 6 city. And that was in January, and this is where we started getting more involved, finding out a little bit more about this. Seventh meeting, which was in February, 9 county, 6 city. Again, you started seeing a resident show up. The 8th meeting, which was, we go from February to June. These minutes are in draft form because the county chairman, Mr. Quinn, has not called a meeting to even approve these minutes since this June 20th meeting. That is ridiculous. But for that meeting, you finally had almost an even score. 7 county and 7 city. Out of all of these meetings, they talked about closing roads within the city limits. Going through, you had the county attorney talking about clearing the land so that the TDC could get a better idea of what to put on the land. You had the mayor show up for 3 of the 8 meetings. A project that is $2 million, and you're only going to be getting a certain % from the county, and it is on city property and supposed to be maintained by the city, and no one can show up for these meetings? And then when we finally get groundswell throughout the community, then the chickens over at the county say, I don't want it anymore.
I'll give her my 3 minutes.
All right.
This has been a ridiculous waste of time, effort, and money. And y'all should have stepped up and told the county, this is our city limits, this is our neighborhoods, and if you're talking about closing roads or taking things away from the property and clearing the property, then we need to get input from the neighborhood, because this is drastically going to impact them. This is just one of the signs. It's a wetland, gentlemen. We've talked about what this property is and what this property isn't. And I will say this, the one thing that I'm most pleased about is I met people I probably never would have met before in my neighborhood because of the way we were treated. And now we have galvanized, and we are not going away till the end of days. We're going to talk about this because this has been a travesty and it isn't fair. I listened to the way that y'all were talking about an area that there's not even houses built yet, but you were so concerned about what kind of sewer system they're going to get. But you've got a whole established neighborhood that many of those homes have been around since the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. And you don't even care about us. It's a big neighborhood. We could do something really great for everyone. but not when you don't pay attention to the people it's going to impact. It's just wrong. It's wrong. It's just wrong. And I would like to say one more thing. What y'all submitted to the county is not what the county attorney asked for. He asked for a phased-out plan, how you're going to go about that plan, how you're going to care for this park. You haven't said anything about that in your documents. And there's one other thing. You know, if you're going to impact us, we have a right to know what that impact is going to be. So where will you be driving traffic? How high will the lights be? Have y'all even thought about that, or are you just going to leave it to somebody else? It's just not right. And this is not the standard operating procedure that I've seen from this city in the past.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else from the public? Anyone else? Come on up.
Hello, I'm Dave Doty, 1003 Woodward Ave. And I agree with everything that you just listened to from the preceding two folks. First thing I want to do is I want to ask you all to consider to withdraw the plan you submitted to the county commissioners so that we can now all work together on something that works for us all. I would ask you to give me an answer on that now. Will you do that or not?
I wouldn't do it.
So, no.
I'm staying with the plan.
Do you have any regard at all for the concerns you've heard? Have you given that any thought?
I have. Yeah. That's why I'm counting on it. I was engineers to make sure that we do something about flooding in that area.
That maybe, possibly, I don't believe it, maybe possibly help with one concern. What about the rest of them? That's just one of seven. But the next thing I'd like to speak to you about is, there's quite a few of us here, there was 40 or more of us at the county commissioners meeting, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Several residents I've talked to are afraid to come to these meetings and voice their concerns because they're afraid of retribution from you all. Now, whether or not that's real or perceived, that's the feeling out there. That should make you guys feel real good. Your own people that elected you are afraid to speak in front of them. Any thoughts on that? We talked some at the county meeting about stress being the major cause of serious health concerns. I know for a fact I'm under stress, my wife's under stress. These folks are stressed. Several other folks that are afraid to even talk to you are stressed. This is going to cause serious health concerns, and it hasn't even started yet. I haven't looked out my back window and seen the destruction of the wetlands in the beautiful park that I purchased that house to live in front of. I worked all my life to retire down here. When I found this spot, I knew this was the place. A beautiful, peaceful, tranquil neighborhood. And come down here, and it's been great for 3 years. And we're neighbors. And we have been good neighbors until this come up. Now that's changed, obviously.
That was on your part, not mine.
We'll talk about that later.
Sure.
But you can look me in the eye this time and talk to me about it, instead of me having to hear it from other residents. This mayor's after me.
Did what?
The mayor's out to get me now.
Out to get you?
Yes, sir. That's
I just wonder why you didn't change your boat registration from New York to Florida in 3 years' time.
Why did you wait 3 years to come ask me that when we've been good neighbors all along? Now this comes up and all of a sudden that's a concern, and that's not retaliation. That's just a coincidence that timing took place like it did. And I don't believe you know what the hell you're talking about. But that's another situation. We can discuss that later. So, in spite of all this, and obviously, you really don't give a damn about these people and the ones that are afraid to speak to you, I have a proposal. I propose first that we change the name from what this was originally intended to be built as Field of Dreams. We change that name to the 10th Street Field of Nightmares. Let's call it what it is for us. And my last proposal is that all of the city and county commissioners that with complete disregard for the residents that voted them in, voted to approve this, resign. In my opinion, that's the right thing for y'all to do.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, I will.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Fred Morris. I live at 1304 Marvin Road. You know that. I
Yes,
seen you
sir.
driving down the back the other day. You spoke with my neighbor, and you were on the walking trail the other day when you pulled your bow-nose truck around the back, and you asked him who he was and where he lived.
That wasn't me.
Oh, man, I got a pair of binoculars, man, and
It
I've
might have
seen
been my truck, but it wasn't me.
Okay.
Okay? I have 5 trucks. Now,
I got a witness.
I don't care what you got. Just
I got
state what you want to talk about.
I'll tell you real plain what
I'll
I
tell
have
you
to
real
talk
plain.
about.
You try
You
to
know,
squeeze
Bo-
my hand in a handshake, that's the kind of man you are. That's why I won't shake your hand again. Because something might happen if you squeeze my hand again. I just want to let you know, you don't treat people that way around here.
What a firm handshake.
That wasn't a firm handshake. I
You
know
know,
what it
Bo,
was.
that's one thing
I know.
about you. You can fear for your life, but you ain't got no problem in the world jumping on a woman.
I ain't never
No,
done
you're
that.
a lie, Bo.
On me.
You're a lie, Bo.
No, you a lie. You want to call somebody a lie?
Okay, we got the cameras at the courthouse.
Yeah, I don't
They can
care
show
what-
it. Thank you very much.
I know what happened.
I do
got
too.
witnesses. I already got
Hey,
witnesses.
I was out there. I had to separate you from coming
You
up
did
the
not
steps.
have to do that. You're lying. You didn't have
Check
to
the
do that.
cameras
You
at
did
the
not.
courthouse.
Yeah.
Check the
Look at
cameras
them.
at the
Look at them. I
courthouse.
wish you would. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
The truth.
Anyone else with the public like to speak? Anyone else? Come on up.
Please, we need the name.
Art Rogers, and y'all, for the last, I don't know how many meetings, have said that you're gonna do something about the flood. I would like to know when we can expect a drawing or something showing us what you're gonna do with the flood.
Jim, you want to touch on the grant process and where we're at?
Yes, sir. What we've done is, the city is working with the Water Management District and DEP for funding, approximately $937,000, I believe. At this point, it's still in a preliminary stage. We should have some information back in the spring as to funding. We don't have approval at this point in time, Mr. Rogers, but it has been submitted for approval.
Mr. Rogers, John Grantling went over and looked at the situation concerning your home there, and he's brought up that the drainage is being constricted due to a fence that someone has built on their property, and he's trying to get up with them to see if they will allow us to cut a hole in that fence or something, so your property will drain into the ditch, into the cover it's supposed to drain into.
Are you referring to the wood fence down there?
Yes, sir. Isn't that right, John? The wood fence?
Where I can't recall the owner's name off the top of my head, but yes, sir. It certainly is impeding some of the water flowing,
Well,
from yours.
Okay, I can possibly understand that, but do you realize that your drainage ditch is on that man's property? it's not on the city's property, it's on his property. Or it's either on his property or he has part of the city's property fenced in, one.
Well, no, that's his property. Our culvert begins outside of his fence, which is our property line. I mean, technically, we don't have a drainage swell on any of y'all's property. Your drainage flows naturally through the back of your lots and around into a culvert that was put in way before my time in the city. So,
I understand that, but if you walk down there and look at it, the culvert is inside of his fence. So is the culvert on his property, or does he have the city's property fenced in?
no, sir, it's outside. Our culvert's outside. His fence abuts to it, which is part of the problem, which is why I'm trying to make contact, because you're trying to drain through slits, slats in the wood.
I'm gonna have to go down there and look at that again.
Okay.
I'll tell you.
Yes, sir.
Apparently, I may be misstating this, but I am 99% sure that culvert is fenced in.
Commissioner,
Thank you, sir.
can I say one more thing about the drainage?
Yeah, you can have the rest of mine.
Come on and be brief, if you will, Mr. Branch.
I didn't sign it anyway. Talking about the drainage. Bo, actually, right before you got elected, you did help me with some drainage. Y'all come and cut a ditch, actually a slough to the main ditch. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
You know how the grass and trees are in that so-called slough is right now?
Yes, sir.
It's about that high. Now, y'all can't even keep up what you got now, and you won't spend $3 million on a ballpark right there. You can't even keep the ditches up behind the house now. Now, if we got rain coming right now, what's gonna be the restriction on that? Water's gonna back up in my yard. And you got a pine tree down there, it's been down there a year, that I could have cut up 10 times, and right there on the, you know what we're talking about?
Yeah.
What's going on? We can't even keep up can't get a pine tree up and weeds cut to help these people out. And now y'all spend $3 million and can't even keep that up.
John, do you know what he's talking about?
Yes, sir, I do.
Is there anything we can do to eliminate that problem for him?
In the ditch, we would just have to send someone down to cut it. We had labor issues in the summer with folks, leaving. One of the reasons why the bush hogging didn't take
How long has
place.
that pine tree been there?
Well, that pine tree's been there a while. There's no argument for me on that, Robert.
We'll see what we can do to get it removed, I promise you. Anyone else from the public wish to speak?
Can I say this one?
Come on. We'll do it one time.
I'm easy to get along with as long as you hurry to get
I am
around
too,
it.
really. I am too, really. People just would know me.
I got a question for you. How do you say that that's a 9-hole golf course? Ain't no good runner. I see people out there, 6 or 9-hole golf course right there where you drive them to the next hole. I see people out there quite often. They'll drive it down to 16th Street. They can't find no ball. You're a pretty good guy. I kind of like it.
Thank you, sir. All right, anyone else? Anyone else from the public? Anyone else? Okay, Commissioner Hoffman, we'll start with you. You have anything tonight?
Nothing to add.
Commissioner Lowry?
I don't know.
Commissioner Langston?
I don't have anything.
I don't have anything. Let's all go home and have a good night.
Yeah.
Call for an adjournment.